Welcome to the Uncommonality Podcast. I'm Keon, here with my co-host Sal, to bring you into a community of extraordinary entrepreneurs and innovators. We dive deep into the journeys that have defined them, from hard-earned insights to the hurdles that make each success story real. Today, we're thrilled to introduce Sean Comer, strength coach and owner of the Versatile Athlete. Sean's journey began with a passion for soccer and athletic performance, which led him to earn a degree in exercise science and spent 8 years as a strength coach before launching his own facility in 2024. At the Versatile Athlete, Sean combines elite sports performance training with character development, helping athletes optimize performance, prevent injury, and cultivate traits like discipline and passion, ensuring success both on and off the field. Listen, share, and we're happy to have you be a part of the journey. Thanks. All right, welcome to episode 3, everybody. We're back. We are co-host Keon Alberto with my boy Sal Perez over here. And today we're here to introduce Sean Comer. So Sean is the founder of Versatile Athlete, which is a local gym here in Charlotte. It's been a long time coming and a long journey for him to get to this point, but he's finally gotten there, gotten over that hump, and now, hasn't turned back since. I'll kind of give this over to Sal to do more of an intro just because this is more of a personal experience for us. Sal's very good buddies with Sean himself. So in terms of that journey of how we met, I was kind of introduced to Sean through Sal, but they definitely have a way longer journey than ours would be.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Keon. And Sean, thanks for taking the time to come. I know you're busy. I know you have athletes to train, so we appreciate any time you could and have given us. So, this one's very special to me because Sean is one of my closest friends and has been for many, many years. He was one of the first people I met at Winthrop even before I went there to play soccer. Because when I took my official visit, I actually stayed with him.
Go Eagles, baby.
Go Eagles. And this one is very, I would say, touches home because I've helped Sean along the way with his business, and I've seen him grow, and I've seen him go through all the different stages. It's often to hear him and be able to provide him with a platform to kind of share his insights, share his learnings. Means a lot to me, and I know it'll mean a lot to him, and we're just happy to have him here. So without further ado, I want to give Sean the mic here to talk a little bit about himself, your background, give the viewers a little bit of background as to how you fell into the space of performance training. And
Yeah, buddy. Welcome.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me. Looking forward to, being on episode 3 here. So this will be exciting. So, for me personally, the one moment I kind of reflect on back in my childhood days, whenever I was growing up, a little toddler there. I was in 3rd grade, and there was a race that was going on at my school. I ran a 6:58 mile in 3rd grade, like 8, 9 years old there. I was very proud about that. And so my parents showed me one day after that, there was a little article in the newspaper about the race that was at the school. Mm-hmm. And they had a picture of the group of kids that were running in the race. It was a little fun run kind of thing. And so I was, right there front and center at the front of the pack in that picture. And so that was honestly probably one of the greatest achievements of my life that I've ever experienced. I've always been fighting for that feeling since then. So I think that's kind of the thing I've been chasing is having that same feeling throughout my whole life. And so I think that's one thing athletes can all kind of relate to of there's something that you're trying to get that same feeling again, whether it was a big win or anything like that, you're always chasing something like that. So
Oh, dude, 100%. Me, myself, I think part of my journey, I think people will tell me a lot of times, are you an athlete anymore? Are you still an athlete? I'm like, yeah, 100%. That's never changed. My energy is just different. I may not physically be athleting and athleticing or making up my own words.
Yeah.
But everything that it takes to do that is exactly what I'm doing right now, just in a different way, in a different venture.
Yeah.
My tenacity to keep going, my energy to keep pushing, and the drive and discipline that I have to do what I do is still going. That's what it is to be an athlete. There's nothing really different about it. And then you just keep pushing. It's just pushing that energy to other things that really gets you to the next step. And for me, I think it's really cool seeing you go from collegiate athlete, to then owning a gym and helping other athletes get to their goals and where they want to go to. And for me, that's one of the coolest things. That's one of possibly the coolest jobs that you could even have.
1000%. And I mean, just seeing Sean and how he's built his business, how he's built his book, and how, the impact that he has on these players. I mean, I'm sure he'll get into this, but he coaches some pretty top-notch athletes across the board, both at the high school level, the collegiate level, the professional level, and, as high as it can go.
Yeah.
When, obviously, we go way back, so I know a little bit more deeper into your journey, but were there any like external factors you always know, other than being a freak of nature, because you are, to be completely honest, like this guy runs fastest guy. He's one of those players where he could hit himself, which he actually did against Gardner Webb, is he hit himself a long ball from our 18-yard box, and he beat 3 lines of people to catch that ball, right? So he's just an absolute freak.
Ran around the AR, and he was like, I slowed down so you could get around me. I was like, oh, thank you,
yeah,
man.
thanks, bud. Yeah, that's insane. But give us a little bit of background as to maybe, your upbringing and how you maybe did or did not know this would be your path.
Yeah, so the big thing I always reflect on as well is both my parents are physical therapists, and so the human performance realm has kind of always been something I've been born inside of, and so they would go off to conferences and they'd come back and they'd be like, all right, Sean, let's get on the table, let's see where you're weak at, and so they'd learn some different things. They'd be like, all right, well, you're compensating here, or like you shift your hips here, so that means you're weak here, and so it was always like a learning experience for me, but also like a constant striving to not fail any of the things that they would come back with. And so I feel like that kind of started my passion for, understanding the human body and understanding, how different muscle groups work and how athletes, can compensate for different things because they're weak in certain areas. And so, like there's a big saying that, the professional athletes are the greatest compensators in the world because, they are able to avoid the things that they're not strong in, but, get past that through their other strengths. And so, going back to the basics for them is like sometimes can be a little bit more challenging than some of the other more advanced things for them because they've compensated and, developed around that as opposed to fixing it or correcting it.
Yeah.
That's interesting, actually.
I would agree with that actually a lot. I think it's very interesting kind of what you're doing, the line you're working in, just because of how impressive it can be to push mindset. Like, I think, like, in terms of the pod and where we're going to go with this one is very different just because, like you said, the people you work with, the things you do, and the things you learn in that work and that practice, a lot of it is all mental. I would say probably 99, close to 100% of everything you do in your space is mental.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that makes me significantly different from you where things you do I can't do. It's just I have to figure out ways to get there.
Yep.
And like that idea of athletes compensating and high level athletes compensating for things, it's like they're just pushing through and their mentality is just way stronger and they refuse to quit, they refuse to lose, they refuse to say no, and they refuse to lay over on their back, so they just find another way to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's just breaking down those walls. And it's interesting because last week's pod, Courtney, she was talking about certain things when it comes to successes and pushers. I have a question for you that's definitely much more oriented towards athletics. Do you love winning or do you hate losing?
Oh, dude, I hate losing with a passion. Like, it doesn't matter if we're playing checkers at Cracker Barrel or if we're out there competing in the field. Like, I hate losing. Like, it's been in my blood since I was young, and so like it didn't matter what I was doing. It was always a constant drive of I'm going to beat you. Everything is a competition. We're not having fun.
Yeah. I mean, on a personal level, I can't even tell you how many times that we've been in situations where like we're competing against each other or like we're in a group and it's like only us two like getting visibly mad about the situation.
Dude, and it's not even that I like just hate losing. I'm a terrible loser too. Like you don't want to be around me if I'm losing. Like it's not. I'm not a fun person for that. And so, I mean, obviously, character trait I got to fix. But like, dude, it's bad.
Yeah. No.
What part of that is your superpower though? Because there's something in that, and obviously, I'm one to hate losing as well. I'm not going to say I'm the best sport when I lose either.
Yeah.
So like, what is it that you can draw from that just allows you to propel yourself to other levels and get to the places that you need to be successful? Because I think there's a lot in that mentality of, do you like winning or do you hate losing? And depending on where you stand on that, it actually motivates and pushes people into different directions.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I never considered myself much of a creative person, but I think a lot of my creativity has stemmed out of my hatred for losing because I just find ways, I try to figure out ways to win and not necessarily like cheating, but I'll find a way to, put myself in an advantageous spot to win. And so I had to get, creative with some of those things. So speaking on soccer, like for me, I wasn't the most technically gifted player. My athleticism is 100% what got me to play in Division I college. And so, I can jump really high, I can run really fast, and I can run really fast for a very long time. And so that was like my way of getting around the system of you have to be a technical player to be able to do this. Right? I had a little bit of technical proficiency. I was an okay player, but my athleticism brought me to a different level of a player. And so coaches, would utilize that for me. And so
That's an interesting take, especially when you're talking about some of the highest level performing athletes and how even at the professional level you've seen them compensate around their weaknesses and like how you can extrapolate that from what we were just talking about. That's pretty interesting. So let me ask you, when it comes to the variety of athletes, clients that you work with, what is your approach for, the high schooler that is hoping to make it to college, or maybe even the high schooler that just that knows they don't want to go to college, is very content, or the high level professional athletes that you coach? Like, what can you draw upon that maybe our viewers can also, draw parallels to?
So I feel like when it comes to like entrepreneurs and athletes, like I feel like one, athletes are some of the best workers you could have because they're used to team settings, they're used to time management, problem solving, things like that. But I would say the biggest parallels there would probably be like discipline, growth mindset and motivation kind of stuff, and resiliency, definitely. So like discipline, like if you want to succeed at the high level in any athletics, you have to stay disciplined. There are going to be days where you don't want to do things, but you have to get out there and do them because otherwise somebody's going to be doing it and they're not you. All right. And they're going to be trying to succeed over you.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the mama mentality.
Mama
like
mentality,
that's
baby.
next level. Like, I mean, like you've got to stay, true to your craft and keep growing. Like that's, to the growth mindset next. And so, athletes and entrepreneurs are always trying to find ways where they can have a little slight advantage over their competition. And so, if you look at, this past Olympics with Noah Lyles in the sprint, he won by, it was like 1,000th of a second or something like that. Like it literally was a hair that he won by. And so that is the difference in, him taking a day off and him going out and, doing recovery on the day that his body just feels beaten and broken. And he actually goes into the gym even though he doesn't want to, and he puts in a little bit extra work that day, even though he's tired, he's hurting. And then he goes out and wins by 1,000th of a second or however close it was. But like literally like the narrowest margins. And so I feel like, that's I'm not Noah Lyles is a big talker, but that you can't argue with greatness. And so I mean it's something that he's perfected and he's worked his whole life towards. And so I think a lot of athletes can take that growth mindset, and a lot of entrepreneurs can take that growth mindset of it's little small things and the consistency of doing it over and over, and tweaking little things and the things you don't want to do, still doing them and still doing them at a great level. That it's the only way forward, the only way to win.
What would you say in your experience, because you worked with a lot of them and being one yourself, is like, how do you get there? So I understand that there's this idea of growth mindset, and there's this idea of, you have to be in the gym on the days off, and you have to be working on the days off because there aren't any days off. How do you get to that point to do that? Like, what does it take internally for a person to be able to do something like that? Because it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you need within you to do that?
Yeah. You definitely need a big internal drive. Like you can't always have external things that are like, cueing your motivation and stuff. You have to have that internal drive that's like, I want to do this. Like you have to have your own goals set where you're like, all right, this is my goal. These are the steps I have to take to get there. This is what's included in that. This is the work that I'm going to put in to do that. And so I feel like the internal drive is, it's not necessarily something you can coach. Athletes definitely have to have that, but it comes from like understanding what you want to do and then having a support system around you that helps you get to that point too. And so I feel like for the most part, like that's kind of, my role in some things as well is like, some athletes, like I'm like their psychiatrist. I'll be the one that sits there and like talks to them about things. And like, I'll hear all of their flaws and downfalls and things like that. And I'm like, all right, well, we're on to the next one. Like it's moving forward. All right. And like, we can't reflect on that and sit on that. We have to, learn from it, grow from it, and then we move forward. And so, that internal drive is definitely like the biggest thing that separates athletes from like high level athletes from like your average competitor is, their ability to push themselves despite like any external things.
And it almost comes from like an idea of obsession with what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're so obsessed with what it is, and you're so closed off to only seeing one thing, which is the goal at the end of the tunnel that's so dark leading up to it, that there's just nothing else there other than that one thing.
Yeah.
And it feels like, from what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, it seems like that obsession with the internal drive will just put someone almost into a tunnel mode where there's nothing else but this, and I will only put these types of things in my life that will allow me to get there or support me getting there and not hinder that process of getting to where I need to get to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes into the, the third one that I think is the biggest one, man. Resiliency. Like being able to, I mean, there's that Rocky, I think it's Rocky 5 quote where he's talking to his son outside and he's like, life ain't all sunshine and rainbows line, where he's like, life's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how you can get hit and keep going. Yeah. How many punches you can take and keep moving forward. Like that is, if you've never listened to that, go take a listen to that right now, because I want to run through a brick wall every time I hear that. Like it makes me so amped because it is so true. Like resiliency and being able to take losses, to take hits, to take failures, and then continue to do the thing that you want to do and the goal you want to reach. Like that is next level craziness. Because I mean, I've worked with an athlete who she had 3 ACL tears, and she's still a Division I soccer player at a top 10 school. Like she's still playing after 3 ACLs. That is crazy. Crazy.
Did she do
work.
both too, or was it the same one?
It was like right, left, right, I think.
Yeah.
And so, man. I mean, freshman year does it right before she goes. Sophomore year does it in this summer. Junior year does it in the spring training. She had not touched the field yet at college soccer, but continued through. Resiliency is insane. When I tell you love for the game is like not even enough of a statement for her to now finishing up her second playing year, so her 5th year in college, and she's still like she played games, had minutes.
That's great.
It's insane.
Yeah, the translation. I'm seeing a lot of translation here.
Yeah.
What you want to like break this down for me?
Well, one thing that I before we dive too deep into that, I want to say, because you drew a comparison between like internal drive and how some people kind of have it or you don't, right? Like it reminds me, last week when we were talking about Courtney and the Stoicism principles, and what comes to mind is that sort of no one's coming to save you, right? That sort of mentality of you want it for yourself, or because no one else is going to want it for you.
Or more than
or
you.
More than you. Or
for you.
Or even to a certain extent, like most people, I hate being a pessimist in this, but like misery loves company to a certain extent. And some people may not be always your fan, right? They may not be a cheerleader for you. If anything, they're like, oh, they got lucky, or, oh, that this happened because of this. No, sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, I'm grinding for this, and I want it so deep inside me, no one can tell me anything different. Like that's delusion we talked about on the first episode.
Delusion.
There is a sense of delusion for sure.
How do you build resiliency? from what you've seen, because you've seen it across the spectrum. You just used an example from a girl with 3 ACL tears in college, right? And I find it very interesting that you use that as like a priming example when you have professional athletes in your book, but she's the one that came to mind. What is it about building resilience, or how do you build resilience?
Do you think it's built, or do you think it's had? Do you think it's had?
I think built. I've always think you build resiliency.
I don't know, man. I mean, there's even some, mental strength. Like there's some coaches that believe that you can't build an athlete's mental strength. Like some people just got it, they don't. Some people can go into a session where a coach is, pissed at you, and then, teams, we're running down and back. We're doing, hit the line, we're going gassers. Like there are people who just can't, no matter how much you push them. Like sometimes they break, they crumble. But then there are others who like it fuels them. Like it is just something that is inside of them that is just raging to get out, and they just have it. And so I part of me walks a line of like, yeah, you can help athletes develop it, but are you helping them develop it, or are you just showing them that they have it?
Or are you being it for them?
Yeah. And so, and then other parts of me, I'm like, I just don't think, like, no matter how much we discuss this, no matter how much we talk about, fighting the losses, or, coming back from injuries, like they're just down in their luck, and they don't see a way coming back. Despite, giving them examples and talking to them through it and showing them like, hey, you're still capable of doing this. Some people they flake. So
Actually, I have a perspective. He gave me the answer. I have an answer.
Okay.
It's an opinionated answer because it's personal.
Sure.
I think you have it. You don't learn it. You have it.
Defend it.
Defend it because I lost it.
Interesting. Why?
You have it, and then you just don't. And that's where everybody quits and retires, because they just don't have it anymore. You don't lose it. You just don't have it anymore. You have it or you don't until you don't.
But is that due to the lack of practicing that resilience, lack of doing those tiny little things you don't want to do day in, day out?
Yes.
Right? 'Cause
Yes. The answer is yes. And the reason the answer is yes is because for me, my relationship is with comfort. The moment you become a creature of comfort, you're no longer an athlete. I don't care what you say. You can never be an athlete again. The moment you become a creature of comfort, it's impossible.
So, if you can lose it, using the vice versa logic, don't you think you can gain it, right? That's what I'm saying. I think you can build it, and you build it by doing these tiny, tough things. Because the same way you can lose it, but if you still have it,
But you gotta have it to start it.
So that's why I don't know if it's he gained it whenever he was playing and played professional and all that. Like, did he gain it there, or did he just have it and it was shown to him? Like, do you learn from your losses, like, I've got this in me, or do you be like, okay, I lost, all right, I'm now going to grow from this? Does somebody actually, learn from it, or is it just inside of them intuitively? That's what I don't. So, like, the creature of comfort, I don't think he necessarily loses it. He just falls into a slump of, this is nice, I don't have to keep working at this anymore.
Yes. So I think it's you have it and then you make the decision not to because of the comfort. You go, this is nice.
It's almost like an
this.
addiction.
Yeah. Think about it, bro. Like, what does everybody really love in life? What are we all really chasing? Comfort, ease, and nothing else.
Yeah.
So it's like, if my entire life has been oriented towards not wanting and not having, the moment it get introduced, oh man, is it addicting? And oh man, do I not, like, who doesn't want that? You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't want comfort?
So
Who doesn't want easiness in life? So I think, I think it's more of just like you have it and then you make the decision of like, it's not worth it anymore.
yeah, I mean, from the comfort lens, yeah, I can see that perspective 100%.
That's a great question. What do you? Yeah, that's a great question, dude.
I'm telling you, I'm a philosophical genius over here.
You're
Easy. When was the last time you cold plunged?
Oh, great.
podcasting.
Last year.
How easy is it to not cold plunge?
Easier than it is to do it.
How difficult is it to go out there, put water in your tub,
Yeah.
let it freeze over, and then get inside?
Yeah,
And time consuming.
and just painful. Like, honestly, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like, but
That's the creature of comfort. Like, you just don't. It's
That's
easier to
crazy.
not. It's easier to not do it.
This is my thing.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I think you do have to have it, and the reason why I think you have to have it, part of what Sean opened my eyes to be able to come with that solution, but also to start. You have to have it to start. Like, my question is this, and this is my question to you, because you might know or logically be able to process through better than I can. How do you start without having it then? Like, that starting drive to start, where does it come from?
Yeah. I mean,
Like, to even start your business, where does that come from? You don't learn that. There's no way. Like, this is back to what we talked about with Courtney's, back to what we talked about week one, like with ourselves, like just the process of being what we do. I don't think that's something that you do learn. I think it's something you might learn about yourself in your journey of life.
Yeah.
But it's got to be an intrinsic thing. If not, it wouldn't be uncommon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And look, it's easy to start. It's difficult to maintain, to continue doing. Like,
I agree.
Once you have one setback, you could be like, oh, no, I'm done. That's it. I'm good. But, or, do you have that resiliency to be like, one setback, all right, cool, brush it off. Next one, all right, oh, two setbacks. Ooh, that's rough. Dang, this is tough. Oh, no, keep going. Like, that's the part where anybody can start something, but can you continually do it day in, day out, despite anything going on, despite anything people are saying?
I think there's like a parallel to be drawn there, though. Like, I'm thinking about that and what that reminds me of, and about having, I think Mark Cuban is one who said this, but he said to be a very successful entrepreneur, you need to have terrible short-term memory. Like, when something happens to you, you have to kind of forget about it and you move on to the next thing, right? And what you're explaining that situation, like, the more I think about it, I think, yeah, you guys may have kind of converted my train of thought here, but you're right. To be able to process through that, yeah, maybe you do have to intrinsically have it, right? The same thing as that internal drive.
Wait, go into this Mark Cuban thing a little bit. I like where this is going, actually. So, like, okay, I'm build off this. I like the idea of, repeat the quote.
So, and to be clear, I don't know if it was Mark Cuban who said it, but the thematic message here is the best entrepreneurs, the best business owners are the ones who have the worst short-term memory.
Yes. Okay. So my thought process here is I'm 100% in tune aligned with that, and it makes a lot of sense in terms of that parallel you're talking about, is because to be able to go into a new situation, whatever it is, or to re-go into a situation you're going into, you need to go in with a clear mind because the confines are always going to be different. You can never step into a flowing river twice. It's always going to be different. It's the same quote,
same concept,
different concept. So, like, for example, your girl who went and had her ACL torn 3 different times, if she went into that all 3 times expecting the same outcome, knowing that she had an ACL tear, she wouldn't have been able to even start the recovery because, she'd be compensated. She'd be too scared to even test it out.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot in that quote.
Wait, Sal, what was that quote again?
The quote,
Yeah.
best entrepreneurs, best business owners have
not
short-term
getting it.
memory. Oh, you want me to make a joke? Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's a good one.
They're like goldfish, which is
Exactly.
insane to think about. Because then draw it back to athletics, right? Like, how many times do we fail every single day? All the time. That's what practice is.
Yeah, exactly.
Practice is making permanent. So it's like, if you're not a goldfish, well, you're going to be too scared to even try and go the next day. And then that's where the failure happens. But that opens up something else. Maybe it is something you build up.
See, that's where, so I think it's
And
like
it's building up the skill of the short-term memory that allows you to just keep being a dog. I don't know.
being a dog. Yeah.
It's a question, man.
You could fight both sides with it.
Yeah, I know, and I feel like this is
Do
very
they have
much
it or?
like a chicken or the egg thing. Like,
Well, I mean, you tell me. You work with pro athletes all the time. What do you see? What do you see from them? Like, okay, so we're getting into these details of what it is we see from them that makes them so different. What is it that you think then makes them show up every day? Because I know for a fact you've seen them show up, and some days their energy's high, some days their energy low, but the output is somehow going to be the exact same.
Yeah.
Whether you have to push them slightly to be like, yo, get on it, and then they get on it, or they're on it internally. The output's going to be the exact same no matter what you see their energy like. It's like, you've been around that so much where it's like, how? Why? Where is this coming from? What's this mentality? What's this drive and draw coming from? And it's because honestly, it's a superpower at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's 1% of the population.
It's you. They start to walk a line of like confidence and cocky. So like people often misconstrue, a ton of confidence for just being cocky. And so like they just have the confidence that they can achieve things and they have the confidence that they can reach their goals despite the outcome or despite the walls in the way. And so oftentimes people will be like, oh, they're just cocky. But no, they truly believe that they have the ability to do like anything.
I don't know how many times I've heard that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think
The
that's
cocky. I don't know how many times I've heard that, man. The cocky confidence thing.
yeah. It's funny because Chris Williamson, he's another big podcaster. He's like this English or Australian guy, English guy, but he just had Matthew McConaughey on that. This is the podcast he was talking about. And Matthew McConaughey in the podcast says, when I was growing up as an actor, it was very tough. And when you have so many other actors around you, you have to separate yourself because you have to believe in yourself more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the kind of parallels he pulls here is people would come up to me saying, like, why are you so full of yourself? Why are you so confident in yourself? Why do you think you can do anything? And his response was, well, if I'm not going to think that, no one else is going to.
Yeah.
And I need to. And I have to have that from within.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that you put that into that light is very, very interesting. And the timing of it just reminds me of that podcast. So I thought it was like perfect.
Yeah, it's just funny because a lot of opinionated. A lot of people in today's society, and I think society as a general today, positivity and confidence are things that are pushed to the forefront, but almost a facade. Everybody wants you to be confident. Everybody wants you to believe in yourself and love yourself, but not to the point where it's real enough where it becomes your superpower, and not to the point where now you're doing more than they are.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a hot take. It's an opinion.
Well, it's one of those, like, they want you to do well, but not
Better than them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
know.
so, it's you're hitting close to home, man. The moment he brought up the cocky confidence relationship thing, it's like something I've struggled with my whole life. It's like I've always had these people where some people get it, some people don't. Some people think I'm terrible and I'm an extremely cocky person. And my response to them all the time is, your mindset is the most powerful thing you have in your toolbox.
Yeah.
So if it's not cocky and confident with yourself, well, guess what? You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And I think I'm happy and grateful that you were able to personify and mention that, because I think the biggest struggle that myself, and I'm sure if I'm having it, other people have had as well, is thinking like, am I a bad person for thinking this of myself?
Yeah.
Am I a bad person for holding myself in a certain light? And it's successfully pushing me to where I need to get to.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, no, it's actually part of the recipe of what you need. And people who are extremely successful, who you don't think have that, no, they just hide it better.
Yeah.
They all have it.
Yeah.
Everybody has
Yeah.
it. It's
You
like,
could-
how can you not win? Or how can you win without believing you're going to?
Yeah. You could still be confident and humble, but there's still a level of confidence that you have that people are it's gonna terrify them. They're gonna just assume that you're just cocky. But I mean, if you don't believe that you can achieve something to the fullest potential of your body, then how are you ever gonna reach it?
Yeah, it's like, this is my thought. And I think it's more of a thing of just people being scared. When it's not just being confident about accomplishing something. I think it's more like when you're confident about accomplishing something that you're not supposed to accomplish. That's when people go cocky. It's because it's the idea of, what? I can't even see you doing that. How are you so confident? That's cocky.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the idea of the people who need it the most get the lead. Yeah. No, I literally need to think this way because it's so impossible to get there that if my mindset isn't here, that's going to be the thing that doesn't get me there if everything else is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's like a good little founder key here, I would say, for 5 is that, and it goes back to what we were talking about with Courtney about, like, embody what it is you want to be. And this, with the whole fine line between, the arrogance and the cockiness and the confidence and everything in between, of when it comes to your mindset, you have to hold yourself in the same light you want to be seen. right? Hold yourself in the same light that you want to be perceived and that you want to be seen. And I think that for a lot of people, especially starting up, because it goes back to the delusion, it goes back to the success rate of how many startups fail, it goes back to all these different things from a business statistic standpoint, that it is far and few between, right? And sometimes the mindset is the only thing that changes. That's it. Between someone who's technically superior but no mindset to someone who may not have all the technicalities but think of the world that they can do and genuinely believe it to themselves. It's kind of like that Jameis Winston interview that I was talking about, the mindset, right? That you had sent over to me. We were laughing about this earlier of like how
Did you show him it?
I think we sent it in our
I probably sent
yeah
Jameis's.
in like the little group chat. But like he's playing in
I clipped something and sent to him and stuff.
yeah.
Dude.
It was funny.
Go ahead, tell him.
No, it was just the interview he had at the halftime about, he was playing in like negative 20-degree weather, it's snowing, and he's like, no, this is beautiful. This is exactly where I want to play. And he's kind of like psyching himself into it.
Dude, I identified this as an athlete, knowing this is the perfect example. This is the perfect example of people misconstruing how people do things, right? So watching this for the first time, it's an interview, and he's obviously acting weird.
Yeah.
It's not normal for someone to be like, they're going, so how do you feel about playing in this weather? It's snowing, it's cold, it's dark, it's like Thanksgiving, it's blah, blah, blah. And as she's saying these bad things, you just see him start smiling. He's going,
Yeah.
I am
He's
so
smiling,
blessed and grateful to be
around.
here today to
Yeah.
play football in this weather. I'm like, oh my God. Everybody's going to see that as a meme. I clipped it like the meme because it is funny,
Yeah.
but then I sent to him, everybody's getting this so wrong.
Yeah.
This guy is psyching himself up so much positively that he's going to go kill this game.
Yeah.
He destroyed that game.
Crushed it.
And everybody else was probably thinking, what an idiot. This
Yeah.
is the funniest thing I've ever seen. You have no idea the preparation that he just went through.
He wasn't sitting there the whole time going, oh, man, it is cold
Yeah.
out here.
The snow, he was
I
like,
don't want to be here.
he was like, best football weather. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah, wouldn't have it any other way.
Any weather is the best football weather for
Yeah.
that, man.
Wouldn't have it any other way. And like that type of stuff, man, is like you can look at that and misconstrued. It's just like you have to be in that position to understand what he's doing.
I mean, that's
Unfortunately.
he's a prime example of resiliency because if you look at that man's career, it
Yeah.
is crazy.
100%.
30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions in a season.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're still wanting to go out and play?
Yeah.
Brother, that's crazy.
Hey man, he's loved like a starting quarterback, and he's been a backup for the last like three
That's
teams he's
like-
been to.
He is the definition of resiliency.
100%.
And mindset, crazy. Like confidence through the roof.
Well, one thing I know, just in the best interest of time here, I know we've talked a lot about mindset and those applications of it, but as it pertains to the versatile athlete, talk us through how that came to be. Talk us through your path, kind of a little bit of your history to give the viewers, because I know this just because of being along the way every step of the way, but I was, with Totem, I was put into kind of like a sink or swim situation. You took the jump entirely.
Yeah, I jumped completely.
And your approach was slightly different in a roundabout way, but you ended up in the same spot. So I think there's like a lot of value to draw out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way it started out for me, so the Versatile Athlete actually started as like a little fitness account that me and a buddy made back in like 2016. And then it went kind of dormant for a while. And so, at some point I decided that, my end goal was to, start my own gym and, do my own sports performance facility. And so I started laying some bricks here and there. And so I was doing sessions at people's houses, doing some one-on-ones, kind of growing my clientele base and, making some connections, reaching out to people. And, incrementally over time, it was a very, very slow process. I was just, like literally taking one brick, put it down, make sure it looked nice, fix it up a little bit. All right, now I'm going to put another brick down. All right, a little bit of time goes by. Let's put another brick down. And so I just kept building and building and building and slowly just kind of, building my base up and getting my name out in the community. And, parents would start referring their kids, their friends' kids, their neighbors' kids over to me. And so that's when I started to get, a little bit of that confidence of like, okay, I think I can do this. And then, I start building a good connection with my athletes, which is like, that's the biggest thing is like I develop like, a big trust bond with my athletes. And so I support them in every way possible. I'll go out to their games. I'll talk to parents there. So,
That's what's up.
you know, showing face for, it doesn't matter what athletes there are. Like they're, you know, low level, rec level athletes. Like I'm coming out to your game and I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna support. I want to see the work that you've put in pay off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would go out and support a ton. And so that's, you know, kind of helped me build my base of athletes that, you know, they trust in me, that I have their best interest in mind. And so, it came to a point where I was like, all right, like I feel like I'm ready to do this. Like, gonna take the dive and, you know, start training out of my garage first. And then, you know, once we got, you know, the ability to get into a space, we're going to move into a facility and, you know, start building up our own gym there. And so, the training in the garage was kind of like the first step of things. And so, it wasn't a very big garage. We had 2 squat racks in there and very little space, like no AC, no heat. And so this was in like April. And so it was still a little bit chilly out. And but thankfully, I mean, I had athletes that, you know, followed me over and they, like I said, they trusted me. They knew that I was, you know, looking out for their best interests. And so they trusted me to do it. They followed me over there, trained at the garage, trained in some bad weather. It wasn't great. And then they started, you know, promoting for me. And so they started, you know, building, you know, an athlete base for me by, you know, getting their friends, spreading the word. And so sharing all of our social media stuff. It's been, you know, kind of the biggest thing for us is word of mouth. And
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have you give everybody a lesson in terms of your process, because I actually really appreciate the way that you've handled it. And I think the way that you did it was actually very, very smart
100%.
in the sense of your growth was natural. You never forced anything to get to the next point in places. Like, it made perfect sense. All right, well, let me do it as an account. Okay, well, now I'm going to do solo jobs. Okay, now I'm building up a base. Now I need a place to go. All right, what am I going to do? Now I got a place. Now we keep going. Now we have this app where we're sending people plans.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the simple progressions, and I absolutely love that because it shows how level-headed you've been throughout the process and how you've had this goal in mind and let life kind of form that goal for you, which I think in terms of the process itself, being so natural is the best way to be successful. Is you're letting the actual environment tell you what you need.
yeah.
And it's like, how were you able to not be so impatient with that and know that these were the progressive steps that you needed to take?
Yeah.
Like, I think that is probably one of the most helpful things that anybody could listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I think that kind of goes back to the whole athlete mindset, man. So like for me, you know, getting to Division I college soccer, that was 13 years of practice, 13 years of perfecting things, 13 years of showing up, 13 years of getting out there, trying. It wasn't like, it's never going to be something that just happens overnight. And so there's always going to be that process and that journey that everyone goes through. And so it worked out for me in the end of that. And so I knew with this, like, okay, like, you know, it's going to work out. It's going to, I know when I'm going to put my work into it. I know that I can handle any setbacks. I know that there's going to be bumps in the road. Like, I'm not scared of those. I just know they're coming and I just have to be ready for them. And so if I'm not ready for it, cool. I'll learn, I'll get over it, and I'll then get past that bump.
So maybe he did research on the gun and the range.
Different approach.
Not different approach. He took an extra step. He did the research on the gun that he wanted to shoot and the range he wanted to go to, and then he shot it and figured it out afterwards. But he wanted to figure out what he was going to shoot with first.
That's good. I like that.
Took it
That's a
like
good-
an
that's a
extra
good-
step.
Well, it also reminds me of what you were talking about, like his natural progressions. And when we were talking about the best businesses sometimes start out of like the clear, obvious problem. That way you're not kind of creating a problem to build a solution for. It's like the problem's there. Same sort of mindset of something so obvious, something so clear and natural. And he's taking those progressions step by step by step by step.
Yeah.
Right? So so those are both kind of two parallels to draw there.
Yeah. And I think it's also really cool, like, Sean, for me, just seeing, like, I'm just going to be honest, you're a pure athlete, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, seeing you be the businessman that you are, explaining that in your business that you have, and the fact that that is still pure athlete, like,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. Like, you are fully unapologetically yourself, and being that and developing those skills throughout your life has set yourself up to be successful for what you want to do in the future. And it's just such a beautiful thing to see for me.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're not forcing who you are. You're naturally being who you are, doing what you love, and it's naturally progressing you to the next place that you need to get to.
Yeah.
Like you love seeing things like that. It's amazing.
Well, I think the other big thing for our viewers, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that can get some value out of this, is seeing successful businesses, successful startups, so to speak. And maybe startup in this situation might be a little bit longer winded, but they come from different places.
Always.
They all start up from different places, different paths, but look at us all in the same position, more or less, right? Owning shop, maybe different stages, so to speak, but we're all, different paths that we took to get to roughly around the same place. And I think that goes a long way, right? Because sometimes people can pigeonhole themselves to say, like, no, if it doesn't look like this, then that's wrong, right? And I think that's just not a good way of looking at business, not looking at startups or entrepreneurship as a whole, right? Sometimes you do need to go bartend at night so you can afford the bills to go sell door to door, right? Or sometimes you do need to go live at home for a little bit, save some money or reduce your costs so that you can dive all your attention. Or sometimes it's a multi-year process of an account that turns into a brand that turns into a physical brick and mortar location, which is obviously where you're at now. Which brings me to, as we start to wrap this up, what is next for the versatile athlete? As you think about your 5-year plan and, what you hope to gain in the next X amount of years.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for us is we want to get more outreach into the community, and so we want to be able to, help out with the small clubs, small local areas, things like that are trying to provide the best things they can for their athletes. And so, just talking with someone yesterday, they have a small club in Indian Land, and so small soccer club, and so they've been running for about 3 years now. He said the next season will be their 4th one, and so. He loves the idea of sports performance for his team, like their club. They started out with a young age group, and they've just been incrementally growing that age group up, and then they just provide new younger athletes underneath that. They don't have a 17s or an 18s team yet. They have, I think the highest he said was like 15s. So that's kids that they've had since they were like 8 or 9 that are now 15, and so they're building a community over there. Like when you have kids that
Was this Fort Mill?
No, Indian Land.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Indian Land soccer. I think it's called land soccer. And they're when you have kids that have been with you for 7+ years, whether obviously they weren't a club before then 7 years ago, but they started with that young age group, and it was kids that they coached in rec or something like that, and then they just started their own club, and they've been keeping these athletes with them throughout that. That's a community right there. That is a fantastic community, because they're building something that is obviously great because people keep coming back, and then they want to then provide more great opportunities for their athletes to grow. And so something like that, we want to build more partnerships with things. Eventually, 5-year plan, we want to look for another spot for us to have a second location.
That would be really cool.
And so, that's kind of the main things we're focusing on right now is, how can we get out into the community a bit more and be able to provide our services to everybody
and throw yourselves more into the ecosystem of the area.
Yeah.
But hey, like it seems like you're gonna get there just because of the natural progressions. That's what's next, right?
That's what we're trying to do. Organic.
And the resilience and tenacity that it's gonna take to get there is exactly what you got to get there, my boy.
It's not been easy. I will say it has not been easy. Like, I'm a happy person. Don't let that fool you that everything's been, happy-go-lucky for me throughout this time. It's been like we've had some setbacks. We've had some issues. We've had, things get completely dropped on us where we're just like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do here. And it's like I said, just brush it off, roll the punches, move on to the next one.
Short term.
Learn from it.
Short term memory.
Short term. Got to be short term.
Yeah.
So, you ever figure out how many times you could get punched?
Not yet. I'm still taking them.
It's a good answer, baby. I think we have one more question here, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Sal?
I'll let you take this one.
So, in all of this, and I like the way that you tied it up earlier, actually. I think there's a lot in terms of what you do and the way that you progress this business. Something we like to ask at the end of every pod, and this was something you were touching upon, is the fact that we're doing a bunch of different things, but if you noticed, we're all coming from the same background, which is athletics, great. But the thing that matters is the characteristics within us that we have. So the resilience, the tenacity, the ability to keep going, the dementia, the psycho, like all that stuff is stuff we have. And so it's something we noticed, which is why we started Founded and we started Uncommonality Podcast, is because we're understanding we're coming from all these different walks of life and our journeys are all our own. But within it, you know what? There's stuff in there that we can all draw from each other that are just keys to success. And so like for us, it's like, what is one uncommon practice, one uncommon key, one uncommon tool that you think is extremely profound in terms of gaining that success or being that person you need to be to get to that next level?
So I guess this kind of in full circle. It kind of ties everything in together here. So the way that I kind of treat things and handle things with my athletes, during their training, this might sound a little crazy at first, but bear with me here. Whenever I'm with them for training, I set them up more to fail than to succeed. So I want them to know their limits in a sense, more so than sit in their comfort zone. So if they're just constantly doing the same thing where, they're like, oh, I don't think I can squat that. I'm like, no, give it a shot. Like, obviously we're being in the realm of, their comfortability and also like reasonable, but I'm like, no, give it a shot, give it a go. And they do it and they're like, okay, I didn't think I could do that. That was actually kind of good. Maybe I could go up a little more. I'm like, all right, let's try a little more. Because then they learn, back to that resiliency thing, like, do they have it? Do they have the ability to where if they can't do it, okay, well, I know how close I am to getting it. But I'm not quite there yet, but I'm going to get there. Or do they fail whenever I'm trying to set them up for failure in a sense of, oh, I actually got it. I can do that. That's not that bad. What else can I do?
That's
I can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, I didn't know this about myself. I didn't know that I had that in me. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I try to do and introduce to them is like, it's okay to fail. Like, failing doesn't mean the end of all.
Sure.
Like, you can fail and learn from it, or you could try for something that you think you're going to fail in and then succeed and be like, oh, whoa, what was this? Like, how did I not know this was in me? Like,
I like that.
yeah. And so I like to think that I can always see, a little bit more in my athletes than they kind of see in themselves. And so I kind of help them like get to that point of realizing like, oh, I am that damn good. Like, I can do this. So
Challenge yourself.
challenge it.
Yeah.
Always.
Step outside your comfort zone.
I will say never sit in a comfort zone, man. That is one thing that I will always die by is if you are comfortable, you are not doing anything. Like, you're not growing.
Yeah.
Learn something new about yourself every day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Like,
great, man. I love that.
I like that. I think that's a great spot for us to cut up shop here for this episode 3. But before we go, Sean, if anyone were inclined to look into you or find the Versatile Athlete, where can they find you on socials or website or whatever it is you want to plug here?
Yeah, so on Instagram, the Versatile Athlete. And then for my own personal socials, Sean.Comer_ on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok, you really just find vlogs of me running.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap on episode 3, Sean. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy. You're actually going to shoot out of here real quick after this. So we genuinely appreciate the time. I learned a lot myself from you and also resonated a lot with a lot of the things just being an athlete myself. So just thank you 100 times from me.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful.
Yeah, thanks for the time that you've given. And I know this is a little bit out of your comfort zone as well, for lack of a better term, like just to tie everything in. So I appreciate that tremendously.
Yeah, no, this is great. I appreciate you guys having me out here and, look forward to doing another one with y'all. So
That'd be
that's
awesome,
what I
man.
like. That's what I like.
Maybe we could even run an event at the gym, and we'll have everybody come for a nice little class of
Go.
resilience.
We'll
We'll see how it goes.
Split Squat Saturday, actually.
That's a wrap on episode 3. Thanks for everybody coming out, watching, being a part of the community. Tune in next week for episode 4, and then also follow us. Check out what we're doing and get involved. You can find us at Uncommonality Podcast and Founded Community as well. And then also Sal has his that he would like to plug in as well, his personals.
Yep, you can find me at _Sal A. Perez, and my business is Totem Wealth Management. com. So
We're working on mine eventually. We need to.
yeah, he's
He might be my social manager one
might
day.
be his social media.
He's
manager,
very
so
good
we'll
at
see.
it. We'll see. But yeah, all right, guys, have a good one. Peace.